The following video pertains to the movie Cabin in the Woods, which is excellent, and you should watch it if you are the correct age. Furthermore, this video should also only be watched by, if you're the legal age to be watching that movie in your country. In my homeland of New Zealand, that would be R16. It may be R18 in your home country. The point is, viewer discretion is advised. Please don't watch this if you're not comfortable with talking about a horror movie that involves sex and violence. Long before the age of men, the world was ruled by a race of gods called the Ancient Ones, and populated by monstrous horrors, until around 300,000 years ago when the human race evolved. Rather than exterminate the mortals, the gods decided they would allow humans to survive and flourish under the condition that they would perform ritual sacrifices, a form of entertainment to the gods. Numerous cults, religions, and mythologies would spawn from worshipping and placating the Ancient Ones, and the monsters at their command would take the place of the devils of said myths, mankind instinctively fearing them while recognizing them as otherworldly in one way or another. At some unknown point in the past, the ritual sacrifice was as simple as throwing a girl, presumably young and nubile, into a volcano, suggesting the Ancient Ones had their fingers in Incan mythology. However, as the old rituals performed over and over, they became boring and played out to the deities. So the rituals became more and more ostentatious, and thusly cults would unite globally to form what we now know as the modern organization, to keep up with the demands of their gods and streamline the rituals with razor-sharp efficiency. The gods granted the different facilities monsters who were the remnants of the old world, the stuff nightmares are made from, in order to help them perform more extravagant rituals. The only consistent thread in the rituals through the centuries is the punishment of the young. In 1998, the US ritual failed for the first time, and in 2012, each ritual across the world failed, marking the first time Japan failed, and of course marking the end of humanity. There are 5 known divisions of the organization located in Sweden, Argentina, Spain, Japan, and the United States of America. Each year, the different nations perform their culture's particular version of the ritual, in tandem with one another, each presumably headed by their own director overseeing their individual facilities. The US facility is located in a secluded forest area untraceable by satellite, with a large control center and an underground facility. Little is known about the locations and functions of the international rituals, but they are presumably similar. The US facility has 24 known departments. Accounting. The accounting department keeps financial accounts for damages done to the cabin and the facility. Administration. Administration is in charge of internal operations. These are the bosses and managers of the facility. Archives. The Archives Department keeps and maintains records of previous sacrificial rituals, as well as documents, files, and possibly even the doctrines and holy texts of the founding cults. The Biomedical Department. The Biomedical Department, or Biomed for short, is responsible for the medical care and treatment of the facility's staff and guests. They may also have a hand in monitoring the life signs of the sacrificial archetypes, and may provide veterinary services to the monsters when necessary. Chemicals. The Chem Department engineers and releases the mind-altering drugs and poisons to the sacrificial archetypes. Communications. Communications is responsible for the facility's internal and external networking of the facility. DNA Archives. The DNA Archives Department keeps and maintains records or maybe even samples of DNA from monsters, sacrificial archetypes, or possibly employees. Data Archives. Data archives might keep records of more refined statistics. For example, number of times a monster has been released, their kill count, average completion of ritual, damages per ritual completion. I'm not sure, and neither was the wiki list that I'm sifting through. The Demolitions Department. Demolition's primary function is to collapse the entry/exit tunnel to the controlled space. But may may have more niche duties relating to the replacement of explosives and demolishing wings of the facility when required. Digital Analysis Department. Digital analysis studies the data collected by other departments to create predictive models. Distribution. Distribution distributes materials and goods between the different wings of the facility and the cabin. The Electrical Department. Electrical produces the power for the facility and may repair electronics when necessary. Engineering. The Engineering Department designs and engineers the technology utilized by the facility to control the cabin. Finance. The Finance Department is in charge of billing and payroll of the employees, and keeping records of the financial status of the facility. Internal Logistics. The Internal Logistics Department organizes the materials and keeps the inventory of the facility. Kitchen Staff. This one goes without saying. The Maintenance Department. Maintenance cleans the facility and repairs systems, equipment, and machinery in disrepair. This may include sanitizing and repairing the cabin upon the conclusion of the ritual. The Operations Department. Operations locates and selects persons as archetypes and monitors their progress to the cabin, updating the facility on this status regularly.
Empty. We're right on time.
The Psychology Department. Psych studies the behavior of sacrificial archetypes and may also provide psychiatric evaluation or services to the staff. Research and Development. R&D are responsible for the analysis of the collected information to refine the procedure of the ritual and make the functions thereof more efficient. Security Force. The paramilitary force that guards the facility. Presumably, they're trained to deal only with human threats, because if their job is to deal with monsters, they deserve to be terminated. They may also escort the Virgin off the premises if she's still alive upon the conclusion of the ritual. The Story Department. Stories creates the backstories of each monster, the Harbinger, and may be responsible for the prop and costume and set design for the scenarios. This likely includes the design and creation of the summoning artifacts. This department likely wrote the text contained in Patient Buckner's diary. They may also be responsible for orchestrating cover-ups and creating false information for the organization when necessary. Wranglers. Wranglers shepherd the released monsters back into their cube once the ritual is concluded. Zoology Department. Zoology studies the anatomy, behavior, powers, and taxonomy of the monsters, and possibly also the weaknesses. The Argentine Ritual. Located in Buenos Aires, the Argentine Ritual follows an enormous ape-like monster, and likely a rogues gallery of similar giants. The ritual likely mimics giant monster movies in the same way that the American ritual mimics slasher movies. The Japanese Ritual. Located in Kyoto, a group of prepubescent girls is sacrificed in a classroom setting. We only know of one monster in their care, that being the Yore, or Japanese floaty girl. The ritual likely mimics the tropes of J-horror, and they may have an arsenal of other creatures from Japanese mythology and pop culture. The Spanish Ritual. This ritual takes place in Madrid in a castle, otherwise nothing much is known. The Swedish Ritual. The Swedish ritual takes place somewhere in Stockholm and involves a volcanic eruption. Presumably the ritual may involve sacrifice by an arsenal of natural disasters, assuming the ritual is similar to the procedures of the US, that is. Sacrificial archetypes may select a type of disaster based on some sort of environmental transgression. For example, littering cigarettes may cause a wildfire, or fishing in a lake illegally may cause a flood, but that's just speculation. The eruption may also be a sign of failure of the ritual, as we see the Swedish ritual failed as it erupts.
And the best, I must confess, I have saved for the last.
But who cares about all that? What we're here to see is the American ritual.
You're in for a
The operations department will select 5 college-age Americans to sacrifice, though how exactly someone is picked is unknown. There must be 3 males and 2 females to fit the sacrificial archetypes. We see that the victims have their vital signs monitored, as Jules Loudon has been drugged before having entered the cabin. So there may be operatives breaking and entering beforehand to prep the victims in one way or another. From there, they must orchestrate some scenario whereby the sacrifices are lured to the cabin. In the case of the 2012 ritual, Kurt Vaughn's cousin supposedly came to own the cabin, and Kurt is convinced to use the cabin as a holiday spot. Possibly through the use of mind control pheromones? Just before entering the woods, the group must be directly warned by the Harbinger about the dangers of the cabin, and only for them to disregard the warning and proceed anyway. Some unspecified time after the sacrifices arrive, the technicians must cue the demolitions department to demolish the one and only exit to prevent them from escaping. Upon entering the cabin, the sacrifices must adopt the personalities of the 5 archetypes. The facility will drug the sacrifices when necessary to impair their judgment and alter their personalities to better fit the roles. The roles are as follows. The athlete. A brutish and brash man ruled by his libido, reminiscent heavily of a jock or bully character. The scholar. A bookish nerd, goes without saying. The fool. A buffoonish man. The whore. A sexually promiscuous woman. And, of course, the virgin. A sexually pure woman.
Me? Virgin? We work with what we have.
The 5 must choose how they die by fiddle-fucking around with the shit in the basement. The first item they activate will correspond to a monster or pack of monsters that'll fuck their shit up. The whore must be the first to die, preferably while nude or making love.
She's corrupted. She dies first.
After each death, a vase full of blood is broken into a stone tablet representing the archetypes of the victims. If a case is broken erroneously, this will displease the gods, but will not necessarily result in a failure. The scholar must sexually tempt the virgin before he can be killed. And lastly, the virgin's death is optional so long as she does suffer. But if she is to die, she must die last. The victims don't necessarily have to be killed by the monster selected, and in dire situations can simply be killed the easy way, so to speak, by a soldier shooting them. It is possible that this fuck-up may have an adverse effect on the relationship between the organization and the gods, though, but that's just speculation on my part. Finally, all mandatory victims must be killed before sunrise or the ritual is bust. Well guys, that's everything we know about the organization from Cabin in the Woods. Stay tuned for a later video where I will discuss everything we know about the monsters in Cabin in the Woods. And also, feel free to leave a comment about if your username were a monster in Cabin in the Woods, what would be its summoning artifact?